I'm Brooke A. I'm a comic book artist, and today I'm going to show you how I like to ink, what my process is. And inking is the step in between penciling and coloring in comic book art. So we start with our pencil art, and we're just going to trace on top of it, and then it'll be ready for color. So let's dive in. Okay, so we're going to start with the inks first. First, we're going to open up Clip Studio Paint, which is also Manga Studio 5. I believe they just go by the same name. So once we have that open, go to File, Open, find your art, your pencils. There we go. So I have my pencils on one layer, and that's, if you push the little eye on the left, that can hide the layer. You can do that from time to time when we're checking on our inks and our progress. So I'm going to add a new layer. That's this little piece of paper at the bottom, a little icon with a little folded corner. And pick a brush. In Clip Studio, the hotkey for brush is actually P for pen or pencil. So if you push P once, you'll get one tool, which is the pen. If you push it again, you get the pencil. So go down here, select black. And this is a dry brush. I don't really like that. I'm going to undo. And the hotkey for cycling through the brushes is a little greater than, lesser than arrows, little alligator mouths. I don't really know what you call it. Down here above, right next to the spacebar. So we can cycle through the brushes until we find one we like. I usually like to go with something that has a little tooth to it, sort of give it a very natural feel. So we'll go down to our pencil layer. And it's good to name your layers. If you double click on it, you'll get a cursor and you can name it just to keep things organized. You'll be surprised how many times you'll draw on the wrong layer. So we'll go down to the pencil layer now that you've named it and set it at 50% opacity. There's this little slider up here that makes it more opaque. So we'll slide it down. And let's begin inking. I'm drawing hair. I like to take these tufts and then just sort of split it down the middle with a line, give it a little stray hair. And right now I like the brush size, but if I felt like changing the brush size, you can go down to the little menu, click that, and you can see you've got a couple commands. You can cycle through the layers by clicking that and then just running your hand around the circle. But we're gonna click the brush size and then rotating that. Whoa! You can make it big or little or whatever. Or you can just go over here and click whatever size. I want it exactly 17. And you can do that right over there. Oops, see? Drawing on the wrong layer. So I'm gonna undo, which is Command Z, and then make sure I click my ink layer. So obviously I do that all the time. And the great thing about Clip Studio is that it's just the hotkey for undo is just Command Z. You can do that until all the way back to the very beginning, to the dawn of time. Just undo all your mistakes. I love it. The cool thing about these brushes, as well as the stylus, the thing that I really like is that the more pressure you put on the stylus, the bigger the line weight. And when drawing shapes, I like to sort of give the weight of the object, the heavier the line at the bottom of wherever I think the shadow would fall. So give a little shadow, a little weight, something like that. It's going to have a thicker line. This is going to have a thicker line. And so I know that I want, I'm doing this for color. So I'm inking for color. And one thing to think about is whenever I'm doing black placement, which is just laying down a bigger area of black. And since this is for color, there's not going to be as many solid black shapes versus if I was just doing for a black and white piece, I might want to add more shadows in the form of big black shapes. But since we're going to be doing a lot of our shading with color, we're just going to keep the lines very delicate and have very few areas of big black shapes. But whenever I have a few, I may want to break up this shape, like his little eyebrow. I want his little eyebrow to sort of give the impression that it's made of hair or has more of an organic shape to it. So I'm going to toggle I have my two color swatches down here in the corners, little squares. I'm going to toggle between the two using the X on the keyboard. So I'm going to switch to my white ink and get rid of that little, I don't know what that is. And then just sort of cut back into it, the black shape a little bit. That, sort of break it up. Give the impression that it's got a few little stray hairs. And then down here with his, or her, Aesop doesn't have a gender really. His little hoof, little paw, cut in with the white ink. So I toggled between my two swatches there with the X, picked my white ink, and then going back to black. And do the same thing down here with his little hooves, his little feet. So I'll switch to my white ink, separate his toes. There we go. Just these big black shapes. The coyote cowl on his head. Once was living, and now it's dead. So I have to give him a big X'd out eye. So sometimes you might want to erase, and it's excellent because just like with a pencil, the stylus has a little eraser on the end. You just flip it. So sometimes you don't want to necessarily go back and undo your previous step. You just want to maybe touch up a line. So you just flip the stylus around, erase. I kind of want a different effect for these rocks down here, and because it's a different texture and I kind of want to treat it differently than Aesop. So I'm going to switch to a different brush. So our hotkey down here, the little a comma and period. Those two are the arrows that sort of cycle through the different brushes. So I'm going to go down, find something softer. Still a dry brush. Yeah, we're going to go with the dry brush ink alt. Yeah, that looks great. We'll do that. So you see it sort of has a charcoal quality to it, or like a China marker. If I were doing this analog and traditional, I would probably want to use like a heavier black pencil, like a Prismacolor pencil or a China marker to create this effect. So it's great to be able to have a tool that mimics that so naturally. And these are the Kyle Webster brushes. You can download it. It's super affordable. These floating rocks are also our piece of that same chunk of land, so we're gonna treat them the same too, using the same brush. Scale the brush back a little bit for these little finer pieces. Maybe give it a little bit of shadow underneath the pieces of grass, kind of overhanging. All right, then we're gonna go back to Leaky Larry brush. I didn't name them. Get these grass pieces. Little pieces of grass floating in the wind and ruffled by wind. And finishes a wooden staff. Give it some knots. The impression of a wood grain. Do that by doing a couple parallel lines. Sort of mimic the outline a bit. If that makes sense. Just add a few little stray dings. So we have a few big stray hairs down here on his tail. So if we want to check, go over here and we'll hide the the pencil layers, we'll click the little eye icon. So that makes it go away. I mean, not really go away. You're just hiding it. Just to sort of double check, maybe a few things I missed. You want to clean up a line here and there. But so far, looks good. I think it's ready to be. Oh, we'll go back over here and throw a couple little grass pieces. Little blades of grass. I think he's done. I think he's ready for color. So we'll just go ahead and delete that layer. Wants to know if you want to proceed. You absolutely do. Just delete it. Move on with your life. And then if you hit, sometimes I get the hotkeys between Photoshop and Clip Studio confused. So I just wanted to make sure beforehand before letting y'all know. But there is indeed a hotkey for merging the two layers, and it's the same. It's just Command and E. So if you want to combine the layer with the layer below it. This little baby's ready for color. Yeah, so once we've saved it, it's ready for color. And if I was doing this for an actual comic book, then I would send it off to the colorist right now. Yeah, so that's inking with Brooke Allen. Thanks. Bye.